The wild surf and forbidding rocks of Molokai's West End are nothing like the image of a Hawaii resort area, but tourist development has been encroaching on the land and its people since 1977 when the Sheraton Molokai opened. A Louisiana Development Corporation doing business locally as Kaluakoi now owns 4,500 acres of the shoreline from the Sheraton north. The next project is 2 condominiums and a park at Kavakiu Bay. This is the end of Kaka'ako Road now, and 1.5 miles down the shore is Kavakiu Bay, the site of the proposed development. Some Molokai residents feel that putting this road through will eventually mean that the entire West End shoreline will be a string of hotels and condominiums. These Molokai people met at the project site this weekend. They are called Hui Alaloa, a grassroots organization formed in 1975 dedicated to preserving the Molokai way of life.
And because the aloha of the Aina, Hui Alaloa formed the group, which is called the Group of the Long Trail. And it is still long, and we are still going.
One of Hui Alaloa's main concerns about this particular site is that it's rich in relics of Hawaiian life. A burial niche containing the bones of some predecessor rests below the proposed parking lot, and a heiau, or religious site, stands only yards away from a planned condominium.
This halimua also signifies that this area was heavily populated for fishing purposes with the finding of 500 fish hooks. And may I reiterate that the archaeologists that did the work only completed 30% of the site. So we believe that there is 3-4 times that amount of fish hook still embedded in the site itself, along with more hammerstones.
I think it was spoil the fishing ground on Kavakiu and a lot of people too. When the people like come down, they get off bankside and you know, this is going to be just like Waikiki.
The developers feel their project will be beneficial to Molokai. We'll hear from them tomorrow. Molokai is the closest neighbor island to Oahu. It may be the farthest away in terms of values and way of life. Some would consider it backward and poverty-stricken, and indeed, of its 6,000 residents, most have incomes below the federal poverty level. But its people don't see themselves that way at all, and to our eyes, it's a peaceful paradise of unspoiled natural beauty. Even in the town of Kaunakakai, there are no traffic lights, let alone traffic jams. Along the highway outside of town, there are fish ponds built by the ancient Hawaiians, and the people of Molokai still find fish plentiful along the shoreline. Their homes are surrounded by open space, and lots of people get their milk from the family cow tethered along the road. But Molokai's uniqueness is more than pretty scenery, open space, and tranquility.
The special thing about Molokai is its people. The time that the people take to know one another and care for one another. You really make it a point to meet your neighbor and know him well.
But in the eyes of the kapunas, the elders, there's a touch of sadness and futility, as if they know they may very well be the last of their kind, and they are powerless to change that fact. This morning, the County Planning Commission met at Kavakiu Bay for an on-site tour. They agreed at first to hear only from attorneys, both for the developers and for Hui Alaloa, the Molokai residents who are opposed to the project. But the members of Hui Alaloa gathered at the bay anyway, in hopes of being able to speak to the commissioners themselves.
Oh God, look down upon us and be merciful and hear our prayers and call of help unto thee, O Lord, this day.
They want the area left as it is, the fishing undisturbed, the archaeological sites untouched, and the land left in its natural state. Most of all, they want the final decision to be made on Molokai, something the commissioners have avoided. But Hui Alaloa feels the decision has already been made, and their anger and frustration were evident today.
The least you can have is have the courtesy to hear the people.
We're not prepared to take any further public testimony this morning.
How do you feel about denying that true experts to talk to the site visitation?
The purpose here is for the commissioners.
How do you feel?
No comment.
Through the eyes of the Malahinis that come here, to our island. They look at the land, dollar signs. I allow you folks, I know what you folks going through, but we as Kupunas and our appeals, their future is in your hands today.
Now, the Hawaiians have been stripped of their culture, land, religion, and even their pride. Take away this money from them, and they will have nothing.
Don't change our island.
At the public meeting this afternoon, the commission heard from attorneys, but not anymore from the public, and it still hasn't decided when or where the final vote will be taken. In a rare occurrence, the Planning Commission paid an on-site visit to Kavakiu Bay yesterday. It was Hui Alaloa's last-ditch effort to forestall approval of the project, which is 1.5 miles down from the Sheraton, and the beginning of a number of planned projects just like it to fill in that gap.
I like you folks to feel in your hearts how we feel. I, as a kupuna, I aloha the island. And I aloha the island not for myself, but for the future of Pios and Makus, for you folks too, commissioners and developers.
The structures F, H, and the parking lot, as I see on the present map, will sit on archaeological sites. So if nothing further is done with them, they'll obviously be destroyed.
But the appeals fell on deaf ears.
Hui Alaloa feels that this is the death blow to the west end of Molokai.
When the commission approved the project last night, it was unanimous.
A decision of this magnitude to be made, seconded, and carried without any kind of discussion leads Hui Alaloa to believe that the decision was actually made on Maui.
Hui Alaloa plans to appeal the decision, but a spokesman says they've lost a lot of faith in the democratic process. Tonight from Molokai, the story of another proposed development, but this one has a happy ending, at least for now. This is Puko'o Bay, a pretty cloverleaf-shaped harbor on the east end of the island of Molokai. Residents have been concerned about this bay for some time. They want to confine commercial development to the west end and not have it encroach on this part of the island. And in the past, there have been plans to build hundreds of condominiums at this very spot. But now the property is owned by a family who plans to develop it in keeping with the local lifestyle. Zoning has been changed from urban to residential. There's now a canoe club on the shore, and plans are to build 3 family residences, and many Molokai people are happy about it. Who wins in this situation?
In this particular situation, it's not only the landowner, it's the people that have fought long and hard to keep Molokai, and also to support ongoing efforts to encourage wealthy landowners or people that have property ownership on the shoreline for residential use as opposed to condominium or resort destination purposes.
However, an organization called CROWD, Citizens Right-of-Way Dedication, which says it represents 400 residents, is not happy. They are trying to secure public access to launch their boats from the harbor and have filed a class action suit against the owners. It's expected that legal action will have to be dealt with before anything is built at Puko'o Bay.
Well, tonight, Lynne has the last of her reports from Molokai.
And this next story, Tim, that we find out that free press is alive and flourishing on the Friendly Island. The Molokai Times can no longer claim to be the only newspaper in the world that cares about Molokai. Now there's another one, Kekukini, or The Messenger, and the 2 publications are involved in what looks like a newspaper war.
I think it is healthy to have 2 opinions, but what ultimately could happen here is we're losing money, and I know very well that they're losing money, and neither one of us can continue to lose money very long, and ultimately there'll be no paper here again.
Are you losing money on this paper?
No, honestly not. We've made money on every issue that's come out. We have a relatively low overhead cost. We're volunteers on the thing, and we have made money on every issue.
Do you think this community can realistically support 2 newspapers?
Well, I honestly can't say that I know for sure. Depends on if you're capable of getting the advertising support.
Unlike the Molokai Times, Kekukini is published by all volunteers. Bob is a nonprofit administrator, Karen is an attorney, Ted is a social worker. They work after hours, sometimes well into the early morning, and most of the residents we talked to seemed glad there was at least a choice on the Friendly Island. Which of the 2 newspapers on Molokai do you read?
Maui News, not Maui News, that either this Molokai News, we always reading on that.
messengers.
Kekukini.
Yeah, Kekukini. Both of them.
Why?
Well, both of them have different news in there. So you should read both of them.
I think it's good to have two newspapers on Molokai.
Molokai is too small to have two newspapers, but since they have both of them, just read both of them.
Both the newspapers are free, and only time will tell if an island of 6,000 people can really keep two papers going.
Well, Alulike is a non-profit organization in the business of supporting economic development for Native Hawaiians.
And along those lines, it wants to build a facility on Molokai to aid farmers there, something not all the community thinks would be a good idea. Molokai residents have long favored diversified agriculture as the backbone of the economy. Hundreds of acres are planted in all sorts of crops, from small to large operations. Those crops are barged to market twice a week. Emma Aho and her husband grow bell peppers up at Ho'olehua. They, like many farmers, have to harvest their produce around the barge schedule.
Because we pick our crop during the evening and then pack it in the morning and send it out to the barge. But I think it's a good thing to have an ice house.
The ice house is a cold storage facility that Alulike wants to build on this property with $250,000 in grants and loans.
Establishing a facility, the cold storage facility such as this, begins what we believe to stimulate growth in that particular area. Farming, fishing, aqua, and many of the ag-related businesses that contribute to community growth and development.
However, this is land owned by the state.
And it's also public lands. So we felt that if you're going to have public lands, and these lands should be used for public purposes. And the ice house, as far as I know, is an effort by Alulike to get into private enterprise. And if you're going to have private enterprise, then it should be done on private land. We've been getting along all of these years with the facilities that we have now. All of the store owners have their own chill boxes. We have a fish and dive store that has 6 machines and he can only use 3, and those 3 are fulfilling the needs of the fishermen here on the island. It would be nice to have an ice house, but I don't think at this point in time that it's going to be a money-making project for Alulike.
Riddy would like to see the land made into a traditional recreation park for makahiki games and other activities. Alulike is convinced the community wants and needs the facility and has an application for funds pending before the U.S. Economic Development Administration.
It is nice to have you back, Lynn. You did some work on Molokai.
Sure did. And Tim, would you believe the hottest issue on everybody's mind over there, the controversy most people are concerned about, has nothing to do with development? The town of Kaunakakai has no movie theaters, and the most popular restaurant, the Midnight Inn, closes at 9 p.m. In short, there's not much to do here at night. So what do Molokai people do for entertainment? Well, this baseball diamond may not look like much to you, but when everybody's pal work, this becomes the center of island activity. The problem is, this is Molokai's only ballpark. It's old and it's overcrowded. Between the men's league, the women's league, the union league, the little league, the Makuli league, and t-ball for the children, ball players are falling all over each other. Sounds like the whole island plays softball or baseball.
Right, we play, this field is in use 12 months out of the year. It's broken down into women 6 months, men 6 months, and we cannot fulfill, the men especially, cannot fulfill our obligation by playing 6 months. That's why we need another field.
And therein lies the controversy. Should the new field go here on 7 acres of cornland now owned by Molokai Ranch, or here on 10 acres of unfarmable Hawaiian homeland? The question is of such importance that leaders from the ball-playing community spent 2 hours of prime playing time debating it. Everyone you talk to has an opinion.
I think it should be out here in the cornfield.
Why?
I think as far as cost is concerned, I think it would be much cheaper for the county.
Why, might you ask, is this issue so earth-shaking? Well, on Molokai, when you start playing softball as a small child, it becomes a big part of your life.
Well, we play about 4 nights a week. On top of that, I umpire the games too.
But there's another facet of this controversy. The mayor's proposed capital improvements list did have $500,000 for a new ballpark on Molokai, but it's just been scratched from the budget.
I think the key thing is people need to work together to find a good site. But you can have all the sites you want, without money, you won't have a park, period.
Residents are hoping the money will be reinstated, and they'll be lobbying for that and the site for the park Friday at the Molokai Community Plan hearing.